Okay, let's try this again with sound. So we're going to look at Unit 9-1 homework, and I'm just going to do a couple example problems with you. Okay? So let's look at number 2. Is -2 rs squared, the whole thing squared, all over 12 r squared s to the third. The first thing I'm going to do is take care of that numerator so I can get rid of those parentheses. So -2 squared. Now you don't have to write all of this down, but you want to make sure that you know what I'm doing. I'm writing it all down so you can see what I'm thinking. Okay? So now in our numerator we have 4r squared s squared all over 12r squared s to the third. And then what we want to do is we want to look at each piece separately. So 4 over 12, r squared over r squared, and s squared over s to the third. So then that simplifies down to 1 over 3. R squared over r squared cancels out. And s squared over s to the third means I can cancel out 2 of the s's. Oh, did I do that wrong? Oops. I copied it wrong way back here. Thank you. See, nobody's here to tell me. And so when I make a mistake, I don't see it. And so this should be a 4 in the numerator. Okay, so we can cancel out 3 of the s's, and 1 of them is left in the numerator. So this is our final answer, s over 3. Okay? I told you you're really going to have to know how to factor. So that's going to be important in this chapter. If you don't know how to factor, you probably need to schedule a time to see me so I can teach it to you again. Let's look at number 6, a division problem. X to the third over 2y divided by -x over 4y. Now, back in elementary school, they use that little copy dot flip, but what we're really doing is we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So x to the third over 2y times the reciprocal, which is 4y over -x. Now again, I can restructure this or I can change the order because this is all multiplication. Because it's all multiplication, it follows the commutative property of multiplication, which the order doesn't matter. So I can put 4 over 2. I can put x to the third over -x, and I can put y over y. Again, you might do this in your head, or you might need to write this down. So 4 over 2 is 2. Now for the x's, we're going to cancel out one of the x's, and they're going to end up in the numerator. So I'm just going to move the negative up to the numerator too. So that'll leave me with -x squared, and the y's cancel out. Now if you leave it like this, this isn't as in simplified form as it should be. So it should be -2x squared. That's the appropriate way of writing it. Okay, let's do one more that, no, I'll do 2 more that makes you do factoring. So let's look at number 10. Number 10 is x squared minus 11x plus 24 all over x squared minus 18x plus 80. That fraction gets multiplied by x squared minus 15x plus 50 over x squared minus 9x plus 20. Now this is where if you don't know how to factor, you're not going to know how to do this. So I'm going to do a factor of the numerator. So in the numerators here, when I did my magic X and then I did either a box, grouping, or throw out the trash, I ended up with x minus 8 and x minus 3. In the denominator here, I ended up with x minus 8, x minus 10. In the numerator in the second fraction, I ended up with x minus 5 times x minus 10. And in the denominator, I ended up with x minus 4 multiplied by x minus 5. Now, you have to think of, when you have plus or minus, you're looking at the whole chunk multiplied by the whole chunk. So we're really looking at chunks here. So what I'm doing at this point now is I am going to put things that match. So x minus 8, let me change this, over x minus 8. We can rechange the order because it's all multiplication. And I'm going by chunks. And then I'm looking at x minus 3. Well, there's no x minus 3 anywhere, so that's by itself. And then I have an x minus 5 in the numerator, and I have that same chunk in the denominator. And then I have x minus 10 in the numerator and x minus 10 in the denominator. And then I need to find out, is there anything in the numerator that doesn't have a match in the denominator? And I believe we have x minus 8. No, we already did x minus 8. That's wrong. I already put x minus 8 over there. So I have x minus 8, x minus 10. Oh, it's the x minus 4. It doesn't have a partner. So I'm going to put x minus 4 here. And remember, I put a 1 as my numerator. Now, you don't have to do all these steps. I could go back here and say, well, I have an x minus 8, so that cancels this chunk. So if you look above, I'm canceling out. I have an x minus 10 that can cancel with x minus 10. And then I have an x minus 5 that can cancel with an x minus 5. So you could skip the yellow step and do your canceling in the above. It doesn't have to be reordered, but I reordered it. And so then what we're left with is x minus 3 over x minus 4. Now the x's cannot cancel out because we're not multiplying x times minus 3, we're subtracting it. So x minus 3 is a different number than x minus 4. We don't know what x is, so we can't cancel them out. So this is our final answer for number 10. I'm going to get you started on 12, but I'm not going to actually finish it. Number 12 is x to the third over 2y all over negative x squared over 4y. As soon as I see a fraction within a fraction, I rewrite it as a division problem. So x to the third over 2y divided by negative x squared over 4y. And now you can do where you multiply by the reciprocal and cancel out. But that's where I'm going to leave you on that one. I'm not going to do that whole problem with you. I hope that helps.